Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something really fascinating from South Korea, the Kangaroo tribe. But we're not just looking at it as an economic problem. We're exploring a unique spiritual take that totally reframes this period of hardship into a time of profound, necessary study. So let's start with this term, the Kangaroo tribe. The name alone paints such a clear picture, right? It's about young adults, often well into their 20s and even 30s, who are still living in their parents' pouch, financially speaking. And while the name is Korean, this whole idea of delayed adulthood is something we're seeing all over the world. But look, this isn't just a challenge for the kids. It's a double whammy, a crisis that puts a huge squeeze on two generations at the same time. The young people are fighting to get on their feet, and meanwhile, their parents are watching their own retirement plans go up in smoke. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the dilemma itself. Then we'll get into the source's unique explanation, which it calls the laws of nature. After that, we'll cover the advice for young people, a pretty wild prophecy about Korea's future, and finally, how to rethink the present. So first things first, let's really unpack the core problem, because according to this source, it's actually a lot more complicated than it looks on the surface. And this is where it gets really interesting. See, it's not just about being unemployed. You've got people who are underemployed in temp jobs, sure. But then you have the savers. They have jobs, but they live at home to bank their entire salary. And that choice, the speaker warns, comes with some serious spiritual consequences. All right, so let's get into the diagnosis, which is what makes this whole perspective so different. This isn't coming from economics or sociology, nope. It's framed as a set of unchangeable laws of nature that are supposed to govern how we grow and relate to each other. The speaker lays out this really specific timeline for the parent-child relationship. Get this, before you're 7, it's all about obedience. But after that, it starts to shift, first to 30% discussion, then 70%, and by the time you're in your 20s, it's supposed to be 100% agreement, a complete partnership. And this quote right here, it's the absolute turning point. The teaching is crystal clear. Once you hit 30, you're not your parents' child anymore in the same way. You are a full-fledged member of society, and the relationship becomes one between two independent adults. Now here's a massive reframing of how we think about money when we're young. The source says you're not earning a salary to get rich. Instead, what you're getting is expenses. It's like a grant from nature itself, just enough money to go out and study society. Whether that's traveling, trying new things, or just buying a coffee with friends. And this is the critical part. If you try to hoard that money, save it all up while your parents are still footing the bill, you're actually violating a natural law. And the source is blunt about it. Nature will take that money back, one way or another. Maybe it's a sudden accident, or maybe you find yourself falling for the perfect scam. So if that's the diagnosis from the spiritual point of view, what's the prescription? What is a young person who's stuck in this situation supposed to do? The advice is pretty simple, actually. Focus on your attitude, not the paycheck. If you landed a temporary job, don't fight it. Accept it as your study for now. Work hard, be grateful, don't complain for a couple of years. And by doing that, you build up what the speaker calls spiritual and social credit. The idea is that this credit will automatically attract better things into your life. And hey, if you do have to live at home, there's a right way to do it. The goal is to stop being a burden and start being a partner. Don't just take, give back. Share what you know. Teach your parents how to use their phones or what AI is all about. Pitch in with chores, create a happy vibe, and listen to their wisdom. It becomes a two-way street. Okay, so brace yourselves, because this is where the teaching takes a really unexpected, almost cosmic turn. It connects all this personal struggle to a massive prophecy about the future of not just Korea, but the entire world. So the source drops this pretty radical idea on us. Your job, right now, isn't actually about earning money. Instead, it's a training ground. Every single experience is part of a curriculum designed by nature to build up your inner character and wisdom. Why? For a much, much bigger purpose down the road. And there's a date for all of this. The speaker points to the year 2030 as the beginning of this massive global shift. The prophecy is pretty bold. It says that huge amounts of wealth, brought by influential international groups like the Jewish people, are going to flow into the Korean peninsula, which the speaker calls the modern-day Garden of Eden. So what's the point of all this hardship now? It's to prepare this generation to become the wise, ethical managers of all that incoming global wealth.
Their real job won't be to earn money for themselves, but to manage it for the good of all humankind.
Okay, so that's the huge grand vision. But how does that translate to what you should be doing like today? Let's bring it back down to earth and see what the practical takeaways are. So it really all comes down to a choice. You can be the wrong kind of kangaroo, the one who hides in their room, creates stress, and just takes, or you can be the right kind, a partner who shares what they know, helps out, and brings joy and energy into the home. And in the end, the core message for young people is actually really comforting. It's basically stop stressing out so much about money and jobs. Instead, focus on your growth. Go out there, have fun, do interesting things, and learn. And that kind of leaves us with this one big question, right? Is this a genuine spiritual law for our modern times, a hidden rule book for how life works? Or is it a powerful new story, a different kind of myth, designed to help us find hope and purpose in a world filled with economic anxiety? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.